We have a sponsor this week.
No, we don't.
We do. We got a sponsor. NordVPN
Talk to me.
Is our sponsor for the rest of our.
I was going to make a joke halfway through, just like, hey, wouldn't this be a great spot for your company to?
We will chat through NordVPN later on.
Love it.
Welcome to the Under Police podcast. My name is Daniel Bader.
And I am Steve Radosha. See, I knew to jump in that time. I knew that was when I was supposed to say my name.
Thank you. Welcome back. We took 3 weeks off instead of 2, mainly because Steven...
I was busted up.
He was busted up.
I had a rough
his
health
Yankees
stretch.
Lost a lot.
My Yankees.
So he was so crestfallen.
I had a rough stretch. I was sick because you have young kids. They get the sniffles or whatever, and then all of a sudden I have plague. I don't have sniffles. She has sniffles for 2 days and it's running around. I'm down for whatever, and then I hurt my back. I had hand, foot, and mouth. I had my hands were disintegrating. These children. Listen, I love her, but I do get the occasional bug back and forth. So it's been a very rough 3-week time period health-wise for me.
You do look a little like Thanos, I'll be honest. So that checks out.
It's yes, but no, we're back. Thankfully, I'm up. I'm moving. I couldn't walk for a few days. I had a back problem. Don't get old. Don't get old. I think is basically just my advice to the internet.
Well, I think liquid glass will fix all of those problems for you. But before we do that, we'll dive into, I guess, lasting impressions of the Pixel 10. So you and I talked about the Pixels before the announcement last week. 3 weeks ago. Neither of us had them at the time. Now we both have the devices. Reviews are out. Takes are lukewarm to cold at this point. But I think, given, One UI 8 is out right now. It's the day it's rolling out to everybody. Samsung is still the name of the game when it comes to like scale and just penetration in the market. But I would argue, terrible keynote aside, the Pixel 10 has been well received in almost every respect. And even the caveats are like not that mean, right? Like they're not criticisms at it's like the Tensor G5 is not as performant as we would like it to be, right? But
absolutely. And they're correct, and 100%.
But that's basically it. So walk us through your experience. You got the devices.
Sure.
Which ones do you have? Which ones have you been using?
So I've got the full line that's out right now. So I have the Pixel 10, which I did the review of. I used the Pixel 10 Pro XL for a bit, and now I'm using the Pixel 10 Pro, the smaller one. And like you said, there's a few things that people have pointed out, especially with the AI stuff. I think you nailed it perfectly, by the way, in our last episode, saying that it's not going to do everything that Google promised. It's going to be a slower rollout. They're going to roll out features over time, and they've done that. But the one thing that I like is that a couple of the nitpicks I saw about Magic Q and some other stuff, Google's already working on. We had an update over the weekend that completely transformed my Magic Q experience, where it was doing kind of small things. Like it would prompt me to open my calendar if somebody asked what I was doing next week. If my wife asked me something, it would ask me to set a reminder, which is exactly what I want my AI to do, by the way. I wasn't asking it to do a whole heck of a lot more, but people wanted it to be able to pull information, and Google promised that it would, so it should. Got the update over the weekend. Now it's pulling exact addresses. It's going into my calendar, and it's able to, I asked it, where did I have lunch with my wife last Thursday? And it pulled up the address and the calendar thing and whatever else. And it just shows that I do think Google's AI playbook has been the best of all the major manufacturers. And the company, I think the reason why the phones are so well received and why I've liked them and they're smooth, and I don't care about Tensor G5, that's like asking Google to win a race it wasn't entered in. It doesn't want to make these more powerful phone, whatever. So I'm fine with the performance. But I like the fact that Google's got this AI playbook, and it's actually working on stuff, and it's listening to feedback, and then working on stuff, which is a heck of a lot more than I could say for some of the other companies out there making these devices.
In view of all that, who should buy the Pixel 10? Because now that the iPhones are out, like we're sort of waiting on that as the final piece of the 2025 smartphone puzzle. Who's buying the Pixel 10?
I think Google's been pretty forward with this. You saw those if you watched week 1 of the NFL season, you saw those commercials. They were all over the place last Sunday, and they were clearly targeted at iPhone users. You have it where those commercials were meant for people who are switching over from iPhone. A lot of the things that enthusiasts are upset about with the Pixel 10 are things I think Google designed to do. They're not mistakes. They're features, not bugs. I think that like people were talking about Camera Coach, how simple it is, or why Magic Q, added a prompt that I could just go do. It's like one page over. I could just open something myself. Google wants people who are switching from iOS, and the things that are perfectly obvious to us are not going to be obvious to people switching over from iOS. And I think that Google wants to compete against iPhone. It doesn't want to go the Samsung route, I think, for the most part. And I think that strategy's been actually working.
Yeah.
We saw the sales figures for the Pixel 9. We're seeing strong response for the Pixel 10. I think there's a lot of people bored with Apple, and now you're seeing the result of it. I think Google's going to take it. Doesn't need a big chunk, right? How many people does it actually need to switch? It doesn't need a huge chunk. It just needs a percentage of those people to have a successful device.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive install base of iOS users that Google, I think, believes it can pick off by appealing to a couple of things. One is the iPhone's camera, and this is yet to bear out with the 17s, right? We don't have reviews for the 17 series yet, but particularly for the $799 Pixel 10, I will make a bet that the overall camera experience is going to be better on the Pixel 10 than it will be on the iPhone 17, right? The main camera photos will be slightly better, right? The sensor on the 17 is the same one as the 16. The ultra wide has been improved on the 17, but I don't know. I'm sure it's just as bad on the Pixel 10, but like their ultra wide sensors are small. I think the main thing here, and I heard this in the Waveform podcast that I thought was an interesting take.
It's still got the triple cameras. These are all bigger cameras. And yes, it's now a 48 megapixel 4x telephoto camera instead of 5x. I think this works really nicely. We had 5x before on a 12x, 12 megapixel. God, I'm saying a lot of numbers.
But I do think overall, as we saw with earlier versions of the Pixels, where they got a ton out of that IMX 363 for years and years and years, I do think the overall photo taking experience will be better on the Pixel than it will be on the iPhone 17. Video is a completely different story.
Yeah.
And then there's that wild card of the front facing camera, which has been upgraded on all the iPhones and is now a square sensor. So you can do landscape and portrait without moving your phone around. That is great. I think that's going to be a huge, huge feature that every Chinese manufacturer will copy within 6 months, which is fine.
16 Ultra, Xiaomi 16 Ultra.
Is that what it is? Is it rumored to have that?
I don't. I'm just sure that's the next big one of the releases that'll come out.
But I also think that Google rightfully is going after Apple's complete duff when it comes to AI and its rollout. And that is what you're seeing in all of the marketing. They're not being explicit about it, right? But they're, the claims that your phone will get better over time is really not trustworthy. And that Apple keeps saying Apple Intelligence will eventually get good.
I think you're right. At the Pixel 10, just to get back to the Pixel 10 real quick, I think the addition of the telephoto was important. I like that they did that. It adds a versatility to the phone that the Pixel 9 didn't have. It makes it an easy recommendation of versus the iPhone 17, I think, for $800. A lot of the stuff on it works. It's still smooth. But now, the one thing that I will say that Apple does have an advantage photo-wise are those photo styles. But when you look at it, Google's done a much better job on the Pixel 10 series. I don't know if you've noticed this with the photos you've taken, of them not being as depressing or stark as they've been in the past. It seems like the color science has gotten a little bit warmer. And you can go in and edit the photos, but the base point and shoot for Pixels was a little drab. But now I think of the Pixel 10, it's done a pretty good job. And on your point to the computational thing for the telephoto, usually when you have a 48 megapixel sensor as the primary and then like a 10.8 megapixel or something it is on the telephoto, you'll see a definite drop off in quality. There's some, but whatever Google does in the back end, it's less dramatic than it is on other devices. So yes, there is a little slight difference in color and some things when you're using a different sensor. But overall, I've been very impressed with the photos taken with just the base Pixel 10 without the Pro. So I think that Google's done an excellent job there. And like you said, with the AI stuff, even you don't even have to mention it. Just show your AI doing stuff and actually responding properly. And you're already doing more than what Apple Intelligence could do and what Siri could do on most people's devices.
So then we get to the pros, right? The Pixel 10 Pro, Pixel 10 Pro XL. Now, keep in mind that two big deal products, the 10 Pro Fold and the Pixel Watch 4, that's only coming next month. So we don't even have those yet. We just have the 3 phones. But so far, I think most people have been pretty happy with the Pixel 10 Pro and Pro XL. The photos are fantastic. They're not leaps and bounds ahead of the previous model, but like you didn't need it to be. And then there are certain things, like I went with my family on the weekend to an apple orchard, took a bunch of photos. I don't have the 17, full disclosure. I do have the 16 Pro Max. I had the Pixel 10 Pro. I preferred the Pixel 10 Pro photos 10 times out of 10. Every single time. Doesn't matter if I'm using the main, the ultra, or the telephoto. But like you can't really compare the two. I mean, you sort of can because the improvements are so iterative year over year now, but I don't want to say that the Pixel 10 Pro is going to have a much better camera than the iPhone 17 Pro without having them side by side. I'll go back, pick some more apples next week or something if I get.
I think you could say, and we did the same. We were away. I took some shots, beautiful images from the Pixel 10 Pro, the base one. You can throw that AI, that ProRes zoom stuff. You can throw that away. That's nonsense. I mean, that's meant as a gimmick anyway. But I do agree with you that the pictures have been absolutely outstanding. And while you can't maybe throw away what the iPhone 17 Pro is going to be able to do on the photo side, I do think we have a pretty good hint. And you were speaking to this last time about what we're going to get as far as the complete package user experience. Because iOS 26 is not it from what you. I'm trying to. I want to be surprised when I pick up my iPhone 17 Pro Max on Friday. I've been avoiding putting it on my 16 Pro Max, but I've seen numerous complaints and then your complaints about it. So and then the Apple Intelligence. Did they? I know that was a software event, but did Apple? Was there any mention of anything as far as the software or Apple Intelligence or anything? Craig didn't come out once, right? I don't think we. And last year was just basically all that stuff. I think even Apple realizes.
It was barely mentioned. I mean, they claim that the A19 Pro has its own neural units inside the GPU cores to make Apple Intelligence more performant, but there was nothing about Apple Intelligence itself, and I am not surprised. This felt very much like an old school Apple keynote, right?
Which I liked better.
2023, 2024, when they just focused on hardware. And I think Apple has two things going for it this year to distract from the fact that it failed with AI so badly. One is Liquid Glass and iPadOS 26. Those are going to be significant changes for a lot of people and distracting enough that most people won't care about the fact that Siri doesn't work.
Distracting in a good way?
No, I don't think so. I think you'll learn to live with it. I've been running the latest developer beta for the last week or so on my 16 Pro Max, and it's not growing on me, but I'm sort of becoming accustomed to its idiosyncrasies, I guess. And the fact that the iPhone Air exists now is a topic of conversation that I think many, many, many people will use to replace Apple Intelligence as the primary talking point when it comes to Apple products for the next few months.
Do you think the Air is going to do better than the S25 Edge? Take the Apple's inherent advantages out of the way. If you're marketing, whatever else, if you were just product wise, do you think that once all the excitement of the Air goes away, do you think that's a sustainable product category that people are actually going to want to gravitate to with the limitations of the device?
So those are two different questions. One is,
Right.
will it do better than the Edge?
Correct.
The answer is yes, by an order of magnitude.
Hard to do worse.
It's hard to do worse. The Edge had no cultural impact whatsoever. It was just
No.
a thinner Galaxy S25. I think this phone, by virtue of it just being called an Air, will have a level of recognition that MacBook Air users and iPad users will just gravitate towards. I do think, based on the videos I've seen, the people that the anecdotal stories I've heard from those at the demo last week, it is a very beautiful object that,
Right.
I mean, it gives sort of like first gen Apple Watch vibes, in that Apple may mistakenly push this as like an expensive object of beauty rather than like a tool that people put cases over, right?
And that's worked well for them in the past. With the original iPhone, there was a people. I think a lot of that's gone to Moto now with the Razor, but there's a portion of people for style or for prestige or for whatever. Apple used to get a lot of those customers that would buy an iPhone because it was nice. It was a solid piece of tech. The iPhone 4 was gorgeous.
But the iPhone 4 was gorgeous, but it wasn't. I mean, I was about to say it wasn't inherently compromised, but it absolutely was, because of its.
You're holding it wrong.
So I correct myself in advance, but I also think with certain new product announcements, Apple sets itself up for future generations. And this, I think, the engineering that had to go into making the Air is going to set it up for the next 10 years of the iPhone as a platform, right? Being able to put all of its tech, the motherboard, the cooling, everything inside of that plateau, whatever it's called. You can take for granted that like this is going to be the design of the iPhone for the next decade. And that will allow Apple to do a lot of things with a foldable phone, right? Like if you're able to just squeeze every bit of tech into a single spot,
it makes up top, the battery in the
it makes creating a hinge a lot easier. It makes miniaturization a lot more straightforward, and it'll allow Apple to increase battery capacity to the nth degree in a way that like Motorola wouldn't be able to, or Samsung wouldn't be able to.
Sure.
Unless they put a silicon carbon battery in there, which they're unlikely to do.
Samsung, maybe next decade.
The Air will not sell well, but I think it will be well received, if that makes sense.
Right. And that's important. I like it. I'm not one of these people that say, who asked for this? I hate that, because the same thing with Samsung with the S25 Edge. Now it eventually, the rumor is it'll basically take the place of the Plus in the lineup. And I think that figuring out those things and having basically a proof of concept product is important, because like you said, with Apple, that'll set the processing and the technology and the things that the Apple's had to sort to get to the point where they could create an Air will set the company up for future products going forward. And so I have no problem with the product itself. And I like when companies take chances and do something like this. I might not necessarily want one, but I do understand your point that it's going to be something that people point to. And the only reason why I wouldn't want one is the camera limitation. And I know that it would be very difficult to fit a full camera system back there, but that would really be the only reason why I wouldn't pick one up. But otherwise, there's going to be a lot of people that pick that up in a carrier store, an Apple store, and say, this is really impressive, and want to give it a shot because Apple's come up with it.
I also think more important than the slimming down of a product is the removal of weight from a product.
Yes.
And as we've seen over the years, Apple has, and every company, even Google this year, has leaned into bigger batteries, which has led to a heavier product. And the iPhones are the same. Even the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is slightly thicker, slightly heavier, slightly larger than last year. There's this compromise that a lot of people have to make between convenience and power and the sort of physical reality of holding a really heavy, large object all the time.
And I'm on the power side. I don't know where you come down. I'm on the power side. I don't mind a slightly thicker device if it means better thermals or better, or in laptops, or in phones' case, and bigger batteries. I'm okay with it. But at the same time, The Pro Max, the 17 Pro Max is going to come in at 233 grams. The 10 Pro XL on the Google side it's a hefty. And when you do carry some of these lighter devices coming in 188 grams or 180 grams, you're like, oh, this is kind of pleasant. Not going to lie, this is kind of nice. So I get that. I get that appeal as well. But and the efficiency thing should help with that as well. Like the 3-nanometer process.
Cast your mind back 10 years, right? Apple in 2015 releases.
The thing still worked.
If you go back to the iPhone 8 and iPhone 7, right? Like we're talking big phones that were getting up into the like 190, 200 gram range, right? But when you look at the iPhone 7, which has a button, and the iPhone 8, which has a button, those were 145, 148 grams.
That's an odd, wow. That's something to think about.
Apple has not released an iPhone with a weight of 165 grams, which is what the Air is, in basically a decade, except if you count the SE line.
Sure.
Right? So even the smallest, like iPhone 10, iPhone 11, we're getting into like heavy territory here. And I just remember my friend Rene Ritchie. I worked with him back at iMore, and this was back when like the iPhone was the most important tech product in existence, basically. Every year people would line up outside the Apple store for them. This was a hallmark like cultural event every September. Sure. And every time Apple was able to shave off a couple of millimeters or a couple of grams from the device, it was a big deal because it meant something had to be moved around, something had to be removed or, miniaturized or whatever. And they basically stopped doing that after the iPhone 10. They just leaned in. I mean, we did have a couple of years where I think it was the 15 was slightly, or the 14 was slightly lighter than the 13 or whatever, right?
So the stainless steel didn't help them for a long time. And
titanium made it.
Titanium on the 15 is what really slipped. But that's the first time I got a Pro Max.
Yes,
that's the first time I got a Pro Max, because the Pro Max on the 14 with the stainless steel was you could throw that thing through a window. I could not carry that in my pocket.
The 15 Pro was 187 grams, and the 14 Pro was 206 grams.
Yeah,
but the Pro Maxes were just like
unreal,
massive.
Yeah.
So the Air is a 6.5 inch device, but it's 165 grams. So it's closer in size to the 17 Pro Max, but it's just light. And I think that is going to be more important than the actual slimness of the phone, right?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people don't need that much that 2 days of battery life. So that's a sacrifice that they're willing to make. It's an interesting phone. I'll probably get one at some point for comparisons. I like it. I like the idea of it. But it's just until that, and it'll come with time. They'll make the Pros slimmer because of the things that they learn making the Air. And so, but I want that camera. To me, it's the camera system. To me, it's
but here's the thing. I don't actually think that the Air will lead to thinner and lighter Pro phones.
You don't think so? They'll use some of that they learn?
I don't think so. What I think they will learn is how to miniaturize the product so that they can increase the battery size year over year. I think what the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max show us is that Apple is sort of bifurcating its product line. It's going to have a Pro that looks like the MacBook Pro, which is unabashedly chunky, and it will have an Air, which is always going to be the thinnest and lightest possible device. And I don't know about the main line. Maybe that goes away one day, maybe not. It's difficult to say because the iPhone as a product lineup is always going to be different, right? There's never going to be like
point a lot.
There's never going to be like a $300 iPhone. The iPhone 17e will come out at what, $799 or $599.
It was ridiculously priced for what it was. Yes. I like that point a lot. And let me tell you something, because that makes a lot of sense. And I've been calling for Apple for a while because there's two things, and not to throw everything back to Steve Jobs. I hate when the conversation devolves into, nothing good's come from us. But there were two things that happened when he returned to the company. The first thing was simplifying the product line. There were too many. I mean, I lived through this time period. I've been using Mac since the 80s, literally, unfortunately. I did take my Advil this morning. but it was Quadras and Performas and Mac LC2s, and there was too much going on. Newtons all over the place. Came in, we're going to make 4 products. The 4 products, and we're going to put the A team on each of them. There's going to be 2 pro products, and there's going to be 2 consumer products. And the second thing was making products that weren't the technology moving to the customer, like Apple Intelligence feels like, but instead focusing, what do we want the end customer experience to be, and then tailoring the technology to that. And the things that you just mentioned, I think, actually get back to that, oddly enough. I would love to see the iPhone line simplified. I would love clear reasons why I buy X model over Y model, because that's something that's been missing from Apple for the past few years now. Why you choose one model over the other, and that was a big problem for the company in the 90s. And if that were to happen, where the Air becomes the consumer level one, and then the Pros obviously become the pro level one, I think that's an important distinction. I think that would help a lot.
I also just want to say that I still think the lineup is too busy.
It's very busy.
And bringing this back to Android, I think every company has this problem to some extent.
Oh, Samsung, forget it.
Samsung especially, but even Google, right? Bringing a telephoto camera to the $799 Pixel 10 has made the Pro at $1099 this sort of oddball where they look identical, for all intents and purposes, perform identically, and it's really difficult to know why you should spring for the extra $400 or $300 when you have this great entry-level device, which is still not inexpensive. I think Apple's got this problem. Google, Samsung, like, they can't get out of their own way. Obviously, Google has the A series, which is I think, a much better value proposition for most people at that budget than an iPhone 16e. But still, like, it's still not a straightforward decision for most people.
It's been bad for Google for a while. Samsung, I criticize all the time because the mid-range selection is a mess. And the problem is, I think that Samsung is worse than others because that company, it'll actually nerf devices in order to avoid run-ins with devices above. Like, you can't convince me otherwise that the Galaxy A55 last year didn't come to the United States not to run into the S24 FE and actually limiting features because there's only $100 gap between the Samsung devices in the mid-range. $100. I mean, it's just nothing. So you really can't make one that much better than it because you're going to run into problems. And the same thing with Google. You're right. The Pixel 9a is a fantastic phone. I can't get enough of that thing. Beautiful value, great performance, actual display. Really not pound for pound. I think the Pixel 9a is, like you said, if people are looking sub $600, that's a phone that you should focus on.
Yeah, right. And then there's also this secondary market of older Pixels, older iPhones, older Galaxies that are more attractive now because of these 7+ year support periods, right? So you have, it used to be like, oh, you buy an older Pixel and you're already 75% of the way into their support life cycle. Now you could buy a Pixel 8 Pro or Pixel 9 Pro. You get a great device.
$300.
You still have 5-6 years of support.
Well, I was doing it for something else the other day. I was looking on Amazon. Galaxy S25 Plus, which I think is a phenomenal device, 6.3 millimeters. It's not a thick device. It's really nice. Snapdragon 8 Elite, 12 gigs of RAM, everything you want. Gorgeous display, 6.7, $550. Amazon renewed right now.
Yeah.
And how long was that device used? A few months? It's obviously a loaner or a lease or something like that. $550. Plus you get the strong return policy. You're right. You said it's very tough to ignore these older flagships now. And it used to be the thing, right? I would never recommend an S21 Ultra versus a newer mid-range device for the things that you said. Your Samsung would offer these 4 years of support. 2 years in, by the time it's affordable, you're already whatever, and you're not getting new features. Now that's not even a concern. Not a concern.
So it's hard to buy a bad phone. That's just fair. But I think going back to the original point of this topic was Google is going after iPhone users pretty hard with the Pixel 10 marketing. I think it makes sense to do that. The install base is massive. They don't really want to rile up Samsung. And it's very clear probably from their research that they're not stealing a bunch of users from Samsung either. Most of their converts are coming from the iPhone, particularly now. I don't think it's a mistake that the Pixel 9 and 10 look pretty much like iPhones, which now look like Pixels. And it's all of a muchness. And one is going to give you a slightly better software experience, but worse selection of apps. One is going to give you a far better, more robust app ecosystem, but the rest of it isn't nearly as good. You know,
No.
if I could take the app quality of iOS and bring that over to Android 16, I would
With
be
Material
a very
3
happy
Expressive,
camper.
You set.
Exactly.
Woo.
It's
That
like,
is some
why
gorgeous.
not?
I mean, we haven't talked about that. What? Just superbly well done. I can't get enough of every time I go to a menu, every time I do media control, anytime I go into something control, anytime I pull something down or use something Material 3 Expressive, I am just impressed with how excellent a job Google did integrating it through the entire user experience. I never feel pulled out of the Material 3 Expressive experience using the Pixel 10. Just some of the best Android software that I've used. Clean, stays out of the way. Just a really, really nice experience so far with Material 3 Expressive.
I will go so far as to say it is the best mobile software experience I've ever had.
I love it. Print it. That's the quote.
I do think Google has nailed it to such a large degree that it is not even close.
Nope.
Everything from fluidity to app responsiveness to typing to haptics to, as you said, the media controls and notifications menu system. It's got more intentionality than ever before. And it doesn't feel busy. I mean, you can make it busy because it's Android, but it doesn't feel busy. It's not busy by default. And I love that. I think it is remarkable what Google has accomplished. The problem that I see is that this has been promised to us for the last 8 years. We've been talking about this end game for like as long as I can remember. And we finally got it. Let's give them credit.
Right.
But like they have stumbled so many times to get to this point that it's just kind of tiring, to be honest.
It is tiring, and this is what we were talking about how the company doesn't really want to compete against Samsung, and this is what frustrates me about people who will jump up and down about Tensor G5, and yes, okay, Genshin Impact still defaults to medium settings. You're not going to get the gaming beast that you would with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, or you're not going to be able to do this multitasking or video processing, or all these things that enthusiasts want to do on these phones. That really annoys me, because here's the problem with that argument that I have. When Google was going toe-to-toe with Samsung, when we did get a Snapdragon 855 in the Pixel 4 XL, you weren't buying it then either. So I don't want to hear it. There was a time when Google tried to get from Samsung. There was a time when they put in all these features that were trying to compete and pull off that enthusiast Android base. You weren't buying them. So leave it alone. This is a new strategy going after iPhone users. It's working. So just, you had your chance. If you're an enthusiast, go buy your Samsung. Go buy your OnePlus 13. Phenomenal. OnePlus 13 is a phenomenal device. OnePlus is best in years. The blunder there was getting out of carrier stores. Big mistake. But fantastic device. Okay? Go have your fun with those. Leave the Pixel to users who want to switch over from iPhone.
Look, I think it's also worth pointing out, and this we could talk about for another 5 hours if I had my cake as well, but Google basically walked away from its antitrust ruling, if not scot-free, then like only minorly beaten and bruised. It is not going to have to sell Chrome. It's not going to have to stop paying Apple $20 billion a year and Mozilla X billion dollars a year to make Google the primary search engine on its devices. And the reason for that is Google has basically figured out that its AI tools are supplanting traditional search on mobile more quickly than we expected, not more quickly than they expected, because Google has done everything possible to push Gemini into as many crevices and uncomfortable areas of our lives as possible. But that's what's happening. And because OpenAI and Perplexity and Anthropic exist, Google is now perceived by the DOJ as being in a more competitive position for the future of search than they were a couple of years ago. So the Pixel doesn't need to compete on specs because Google is putting Gemini on the OnePlus 13 and the Galaxy S25 and the Moto 3, Moto Razr and everything else, because that's part of the deal, right? And obviously, as part of this ruling, they cannot force these companies to install Gemini exclusively.
Learn that with Microsoft.
But they can still put Gemini in the Google services that are a part of all the other apps that you get by default on your phone. Sure. And more importantly, Gemini is good. Like, it's good. And because of that, Samsung is fine getting into bed with Google, because it means Google's going to pay them a ton of money. And then Samsung can then turn around and sign an agreement with Perplexity and also have Perplexity as a secondary AI provider, because it's all behind the scenes, especially as we get closer to agentic stuff. You're just going to ask Bixby a question. You're probably never going to ask Bixby a question.
I will not. I'm just going to stop your. I will not be.
But you're going to say something, and it's going to decide, okay, is Gemini the best provider for this, or is Perplexity the best provider? And Samsung's going to walk away with a bunch of cash either way. And I think that's really important here, because the Pixel doesn't need to perform the way that it used to.
Right.
Because Google has set itself up for mobile success in this magical way, getting around all this regulatory scrutiny.
And that's great. And and that was, I think, what the company was trying with the Pixel 5 when it transitioned, kind of its extra Pixel stuff as a service. And that's why you'd buy the phone instead of necessarily the processing power. It's just we weren't quite ready for it, and the device was a little goofy. But I absolutely agree with that. The company's going to get around all that stuff. Google's not going to have a problem with it because it's on everything. You really can't say it's not excluding anybody. But Daniel, that brings an interesting question, though. I'd like to ask you. It's a lot of privacy and security stuff going on. Do we have anything that might be able to help people out there with that? Is there some sort of I don't know.
Are you really leading me into an ad spot?
I mean, come on, listen. Is it that? I don't know.
In fact, yes, Stephen.
Okay, thank you. That was a stage.
Now that I think,
should have won an Emmy last night for that answer.
You should have hosted, is what you should have done, because that was an appalling.
I can't watch those. I can't watch.
It was. What's the guy's name?
I don't even know who hosted.
Nate Bargatze. Okay. It was not good. It was bad.
Okay.
But anyway, in fact, yes, thank you for mentioning. We have a sponsor for the podcast. It is NordVPN. If you are looking for a VPN provider, if you're worried about your data getting stolen or your IP getting tracked, or you just don't want to leave a big footprint on the internet, try NordVPN. Get 2 years for 75% off their best offer and 4 months for free. That is basically $4 a month if you sign their 2-year plan, which is basically free. I can't say that, actually. I'm not allowed to say it's basically free. The FTC will get mad at me, but it is not a lot of money, and it would help the show out. I'm just going to appeal to you guys, because that's why we're doing this.
I got cats to feed.
I think it's more upfront. It's better to be upfront about this stuff. We want to get paid for this podcast. We want to make some money for it so that we can keep bringing in guests and cool special effects in the background, and buy a new microphone for you, Stephen. No, I'm joking.
No, I need it.
Get you some.
Poor Jules works for nothing.
Get you some microphone training classes.
Super producer Jules. We want to be able to pay these.
So go to nordvpn.com/Android Police for your exclusive discount code, and tell them we sent you, because we appreciate it. That is nordvpn.com/Android Android police, all one word. Well, I guess
Well done.
It has to be all one word, because if you put a space in a URL, it'll just send you nowhere. But
you're nowhere.
That's what my mom does with hashtags. I find it
space
so
in between
cute.
the hashtag.
She puts a space in between the words, and then the hashtag breaks. And I keep telling her, you can't put a space in the hashtag, because that's not how they work.
The day that my parents discovered emojis was just the end of it. Everything's an emoji now. I mean, I get 27 emojis. Like, Mom, you got to just text. It's all right. Words. Use your words. It's fine.
I always find it funny when adults are writing what they think like in a novel, for instance, if there's like a teenager and they're writing, some like text conversation, and they think that this is what like a 13-year-old is writing. Like, you've never actually seen a 13-year-old talking to their friends, because they're talking on Snapchat.
Okay.
Those don't exist anymore. Like, those messages have all disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yes. Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
That.
I remember watching the Tonight Show.
I'm happy Johnny Carson. That I'll tell Will, actually, that our first sponsor happened years after we started.
He just listen. They
2 months after we left.
After he left,
or he left.
That's it.
Okay, let's talk about something else.
Yeah,
Amazon. Amazon has a hardware event coming up on the 30th. There are going to be new Echo devices, new Kindles. This is coinciding with Google's eventual rollout of Gemini on its smart home devices.
Right.
Okay. I just want to tell you a story that is becoming more and more commonplace.
Please.
This morning I asked my Nest Home Max to play Cat Stevens, because I like to listen to like some calm music while I'm making breakfast and stuff. And I just said, "Hey G, play Cat Stevens." And in the past, I think it probably just would have worked. It would have just started playing from my, YouTube music. It would just start playing a Cat Stevens playlist. Today, it played me the most random thing I could have imagined. It was like a clip of an Arabic podcast or something. I'm not even sure how it happened. And I've found that more and more Google Home has just increasingly become less reliable. It is decreasingly reliable. It is more unreliable. You can say it as many ways as you want.
Yeah. It's definitely gotten worse.
And I'm finding that I just hate it now. And I also find it really difficult to believe that Google will be able to put Gemini on existing hardware that's been out for 2 to 3 years at least and have it function properly. What are your thoughts on this?
I am not a big smart home guy. I don't, for those reasons. I started out early on, and it just frustrated me to no end. And I haven't had the experience with it getting worse. I've never used the Google stuff. I've tried a little bit with the Amazon stuff with controlling my lights and using the various tablets, because what was happening was I had all these Echo Dots laying around, and I would be somebody who would buy the tablet every time a new one came out, or an Amazon Prime Day, $30. You buy them like potato chips. So I just have them around, and I had my Philips Hue stuff, and I'd set it up to that, and so that's what I would use. But it disconnected all the time, and it was frustrating, so I stopped. So I never really used the voice assistant Google stuff. But you're right. As far as the hardware stuff, you're correct. If you can't get stuff working on the current gen things, why am I going to invest the money? Why am I going to set up this whole smart home if I know that the 2, 3, 4 years down the line, the new features are going to be absolutely useless?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Google's going to do with this. Amazon has been touting Alexa Plus for months now, and apparently it's rolled out to some people, but not a lot of people have it. My guess is that it's only being pushed to a small number of people until the new Echo hardware is announced and released next week or in a couple of weeks. But I mean, it makes sense, right? AI is being positioned as this voice first interaction model. Google is encouraging us to talk to Gemini Live in a conversational way. Chatbots are being positioned as our friends. Like, this all kind of makes sense.
Yes.
But I'm finding the disconnect between that and the reality of like current voice first smart home hardware to be so large that I just don't know how that gulf is going to be closed. And yeah, I'm very curious what Google does with this.
Yeah, I think that's you're going to have that period where you need to clear out the older stuff. Now, how much of that? I mean, how much processing power does it really need for, or how many things to use the cloud based stuff? So, I know, is that the thing, where is it? I mean, how does it function now? Is this stuff going to the cloud for Gemini? It's not happening on device.
No, it's going to the cloud.
So, how much do you really need for that? I mean, I hope that stuff's going to work on these things for years to come.
I would guess that's true. I mean, you can technically just pass off the command.
Yeah, the processing is happening over quickly.
There. But this, I mean, that's basically what Assistant is doing now, and it doesn't work.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I don't know if they're planning on overhauling it entirely or not. But yeah, I'm for a lot of Google, Gemini things, I'm like cautiously optimistic. For this one, I'm not, and I'm just expecting it to be terrible. But we'll see.
I want to try to get into one tip, because there's one thing I saw that was like you could set up where is either the near field stuff, or if it's NFC or if it's Bluetooth, where you could just get into a zone around your home and it'll know the light setting and the temperature setting and whatever. I don't have to do anything. It just knows when I'm getting close and it'll set up all the stuff that I need. So a lot of it does sound interesting. Now, isn't there something where the standard now where you don't need what is the standard for the smart home stuff now, where it doesn't necessarily matter which one you have? They could all speak with each other.
Matter.
Right. Okay. So that seems to be something that that is helpful for me, because I could piece together a system as opposed to just picking out one ecosystem and building from there.
Well, yeah, that's the theory. In practice, we're not quite there yet.
Oh, not there?
No.
Okay.
Not even close. Like, they might talk to each other, but you're still better off having all of your products in one ecosystem.
Amazon makes it tough not to choose Amazon.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's easy. Most products will support HomeKit and Google Home and Alexa, and like there are a bunch of unifying protocols now, and they have fallbacks through Bluetooth or Zigbee or Z-Wave. Like it's all of a muchness. I think it's just a matter of getting, like, I think the thing that Philips announced during IFA was really interesting. Philips announced a massive overhaul to its product lineup, releasing a bunch of new lights, better color representation, a cheaper lineup as well. But one thing that was really interesting was that all of its lights can function as motion detectors now.
Ooh.
And that's going to just come through an update, a software update.
That's pretty cool.
It uses very small shifts in like RF. So when you walk into a room, it knows that there's a very, very slight shift in RF based on your presence.
My electromagnetic field that I'm putting out, that basically, it somehow detects?
Yeah, and the more products you have in the room, the better. But you do need at least 3, because it needs to triangulate
where I am, yeah.
So most rooms are not going to have 3 lights. So it'll be interesting to see like how much of an impact this has. But I do love that Philips and other companies are trying to retrofit older products to improve, like to have a better experience through just like newer protocols.
Well, that's what I always loved about. I mean, it's not a direct example, but I always loved about the old Samsung Pay when it would simulate MST, when it would simulate your credit card strip, your magnetic strip in the back, repurposing, kind of make an old machine whatever compatible with new tech.
That was the best hack of all time.
That was you would be. I would have people. I would have cashiers jumping. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. And I said, just hold on. And then you go ahead and you put it replicates that magnetic strip, and you were like a magician.
I know.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that never came up here because we got rid of the magnetic strips in 2011.
Oh, okay.
We moved to chip and pin.
Okay,
because it's way more secure. I mean,
sure.
Samsung did the right thing because the US was behind by a decade, and it just simulated the magnetic strip. But I think it's pretty ubiquitous now, right? Like chip and sign.
Oh yeah, no, you can't find a place that's that's still doing. No, so maybe rural place. I don't know, but no, you have chip and or tap, or whatever.
Tap is most common for sure.
Yeah.
My bank didn't support Google Pay until last year, which was wild. So it supported Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, but not Google Pay.
Was it like a local bank, or is this a major chain up there?
No, it was the second largest bank in the country. But I think they had an agreement with Samsung that it would it was not going to support Google Pay.
Good.
So I was furious because like whenever I switched away from a Samsung phone, I couldn't use payments, and it was like it just didn't make sense. And I think the audience got loud and loud enough that it eventually just supported Google Pay. But yeah, it's still magical. Like whenever I pay for a meal with my phone, it still feels magical.
And I'm a bit of a dinosaur with this stuff, shockingly enough. But I know it's a big surprise. But I've gotten the few times I really like using Apple Pay with stuff and Google Pay. It is neat. It's neat. When I was like, I forgot my wallet in my car. Do I got to go back to my car? No, got my phone. I'm good. Tap, and I'm on my way.
It is. It's awesome. Okay, so that's happening. What else? What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot that I was especially excited about. I'm excited for I still get excited. See, this is where I'm going to pick up. My iPhone pre-order was going to be October because I didn't know the exact time. So I went on and I said, you know what? I don't need to do that. So I could pick it up in store. And I was like, I hadn't picked up a phone in store in maybe it was the iPhone 4 was the last time I picked up a phone in store. So I'm going to do this. We're going to make a day. We're going to take the baby to the mall. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm actually excited to go pick up a phone at the store on release day. It's just I don't know. Yeah, it's just something nostalgic about that I'm actually kind of excited about. The phone itself, whatever. It's just you're going there, you're picking up a new phone. That to me is kind of cool.
I agree. I lined up for the iPhone 4 and it was or 4S back in 2011, and it was a fun event. Like I stayed overnight and
at
a mall and woke up at 6:00 and bought a bunch of phones and then went home and played with. Like it was like a communal event back then.
Yeah.
When people
well, the crazy. So the first one. So I left work at 4. I ran over to the closest AT&T store, and there was along the side of the wall there was a trash can, and I was just inside of this trash can. And the guy came out and said, everybody behind the trash can, no good. I don't have enough units for you, as he was counting them out. So I got one. But the frustrating thing about that was when you got your first iPhone, you had to go home and you had to plug it into iTunes. You had to plug it into your computer. And I didn't have a Mac with a USB 2.0 port, or I did. It was with the laptop. One of the USB ports was 2.0 on the laptop. And you had to wait. I had a point in my phone where I could send calls, but I was receiving them on my Motorola Q. Like you had to wait like 12 hours or something like that to set up the initial iPhone. But that stuff was fun. I know. I used to call Verizon on a Friday night and change my ESN number from a BlackBerry to my Motorola Q or back to my Motorola Razr, depending on what I want to use for the weekend. Those were fun times.
Those were great. Those were super, super fun. All right, so we'll end the show there, but before we do, we'll ask the question we ask every week. What's making you happy this week, Steven?
Well, I can tell you it's not as heartfelt as the last time, but it is good nonetheless. I don't have to shell out a significant amount of money to remove bats from my attic. So about a year ago, there was some rustling in my attic, and I didn't think anything of it. It was the first time I moved to a rural area, so I think squirrels or something up there, whatever. So I sent a guy up there. And he comes back down and he's exasperated. He says, you have 25 or 30 bats in your attic. It's a colony up there. So I initially my intent is going, like, hold on a minute. I feel like that would be more of a commotion if there were 25, 30 bats up there. But I'll play along. Okay. How much is it to remove these bats? $25,000. Okay. So it's during the day. So they're up there. They're sleeping. So where's the picture? Show me the picture of the bats.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you have a split attic, and they're under this one area, and they're very good at getting underneath. I said, hold on, my friend. Hold on a second. For $25,000, you go up there with your bare hands and you bring me a bat. You put a bat on this desk, and then we'll talk about your money. And he left. And so I bring another guy in, and he says, no, he's like 1 or 2 bats. So the long story short, I had it again this year. But now it's like there's a bit of noise going on. So I send my guy up there again. He says, all right, here's the deal. Every year, You got a mom and a papa bat that come here and hang out and start a family. And what you're hearing in all this racket is when the baby bats get big enough, they're not the ones that came in. So they're trying to get a way out. He's like, do you want me to do anything about it? It's like, no. As long as now, there are rules to the bat Airbnb. All right, no parties. These kids can't come home after college and live at home. None of this stuff. But if it's just a mama and papa bat, every year they want to come by and start their family, I got no problem with that. But I don't have to shell out $25,000.
I hate to tell you this, but bats have a lot of babies, and they don't like to.
They like to stay.
They like to stay where they are comfortable. So
listen. There's a thing. Now, this is what they want to do. So the one guy wanted, the $25,000 I was talking about. Mm-hmm. This guy, who's a good guy, $400. There's this thing that's like ultraviolet light. Because I just said, why not just turn the lights on up there? They don't like lights. I mean, me with my really high level explanations. But there is a thing that's a UV light that you plug right into your attic, and it's also an ultrasonic noise that we can't hear, and then it'll whatever. But I haven't heard anything, so I'm okay with it for now. Like I said,
for you.
The visits over the holidays are fine. Don't come back to live.
I had a bat problem at an Airbnb I stayed at last summer, and it was traumatizing. So, and it wasn't even my home.
What happened? What happened?
I was going to bed, and I opened the bathroom door, and a bat flew out. And then my wife and I freaked out because obviously we've never seen a bat before in our house.
And it's scary for rabies.
Kids are
and
sleeping.
Stuff.
We don't want to wake it up. And we spent the next 20 minutes trying to find the bat and open a window and blah, blah, blah. And the bat ended up just going to sleep behind the air conditioning unit on the, it was fine. Like I freaked out. I shouldn't have. It was a big deal. It wasn't a big deal, but it's one of those things where, like, when you have rodent trauma, your body just goes into protection mode. Like I'm stealing
rodent trauma.
I've had rats. I've had mice. I've had every squirrels in the walls. I've had bees. I've had the works at our house, and I felt like I needed to get rid of this bat ASAP, or it would bite my child right while it was sleeping.
Listen, with the kids, all bets are off with the kids.
Plus, it's like a rat, right? A bat, right? Like you worry about rabies.
So it's a big one.
You don't take any chances. Thankfully, our kids were in a closed room and it was fine, and they didn't get bothered, and we went to sleep and the bat was gone in the morning. But so I get it. I'm sympathetic to your sympathy.
Thank you.
Your empathy.
Thank you. And what are you happy about?
So I'll give you two. One is one that I spoke about with Will, I think 6 months or a few months ago. I finally watched the 4K remaster of Master and Commander.
Yes.
It was the best. It was awesome. I loved it.
You were trying to convince me last time to get to look this up. You said it was sold out or something like that.
It was. I got it. I watched it. It's
okay.
Incredible. I highly recommend it. The next one, I just read a really good sci-fi book that I think people should read. It's called Disillusion.
Writing this down.
It's a really easy read by a guy named Nicholas Binge. And it was, I think it was one of those like books that is made for a movie. Like I can see this being turned into a film. It's at a high level, kind of a time travel book, but it's a bit more involved with that. It's a love story. It's well paced. It's interesting. It kept me invested in the whole book. I read it in like 2 days, and this was a pretty long book. So I won't give anything away, but I will say that it's extremely easy to get through it very quickly. I read it. I listened to the audiobook, but I can also see it being a really good, fast read if you're reading it.
So this is why I was looking forward to it, because we talked about this previously. I do not read as much as I should anymore, and it's the mental calmness that I don't have to sit down and focus on a book. But that's the perfect, like you said, easy read, sci-fi. That's the perfect one to start on. I'm going to look that up.
I think get the audiobook if you want. Like I just think when I'm faced with like I want to read a book, but I don't have time to just sit and do nothing else.
Right.
I'm always able to like fit in a few minutes here and there, walking back from taking the kids to school or doing the dishes or yard work or whatever, right? Like you always have some time in the day where you can be listening to something versus I'm sitting and reading, and your wife is like, what are you doing? Why are you not doing something else productive? Right.
So the baby's screaming for me something. Yeah,
exactly. That to me is worth it. And like, I have it's been beautiful here. I've been going on a lot of walks with the kids. They're off playing in the park. I'm sitting listening to my audiobook for a few minutes, right? Like that's my bliss. I love that. So highly recommend it. It's called Dissolution by Nicholas Binge.
Excellent.
Actually, now that I'm on the Wikipedia page, in 2024, Deadline Hollywood announced that an adaptation of the book was in development at Sony Pictures, with Oscar-nominated Eric Heiserer penning the script. Oh, he wrote Arrival, the Alien book with or Alien movie, the Denis Villeneuve movie starring Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. I like that book a lot, or that movie a lot. So
hopes for the adaptation then.
He also wrote Bird Box. Remember that Netflix movie that got a ton of publicity?
No.
The one where Sandra Bullock, there was like some supernatural force that if you looked at it, it would force you to, or cause you
so
to
wait, there was the one where you couldn't make noise.
That was
not the same
Quiet
one.
Place. No, this is where you couldn't look.
You can't look at it. Okay.
Something, or it would force you to kill yourself.
Okay.
So you were like forced.
I can't do horror. I can't do scary movies. I never could do it. My first movie at 4 was Bambi, and we had to leave the theater. Like I just can't. It's just the scary, unhappy, scary movies. I don't do well with.
I'm a baby about that stuff too. So
all right, good.
I agree with you. But I this is not a horror movie. Like this.
Okay. No, I know.
To do with horror.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's making me happy. So we'll try to do this again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. No, do we not owe them one? We got a sponsor. Do we not owe them one?
I can't do it
the
next
break.
week.
Oh, okay.
I'm at the Snapdragon.
2 weeks
Summit.
it is. Oh, look at you. Where are they sending you for that?
Hawaii.
Oh, that's now? I thought it was in December, that thing usually.
They used to do it later in the year, but now they do it in September.
Ooh, look at wow.
So I'll be in Hawaii, and then I will be back the following week, and we can
Wonderful.
We can jam.
Excellent. Sounds good to me.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring the show.
That's right. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Did you ever have one of those? What were they called? The
calculator? TI-83?
TI-83.
TI-83. Plus. Absolutely.
Yes.
The biggest scam in technology. They still sell those things for $150. This thing could be made for $4 with a do-it-yourself kit to have the computing power of this thing, and they still have, because schools require them, so you still have to buy them for $100.
It's single-handedly keeping Texas Instruments in business.
100%.